Pumpkins glow, but envy burns brighter. Dolly Bantry walked briskly through the hall, her voice sharp. "Mary, lanterns must be lit before dusk. The guests expect a glow." Mary nodded. She hurried away. Colonel Bantry lowered his newspaper. He grumbled, "All this fuss, pumpkins and ghosts. It feels childish." Dolly gave him a look. "Childish. It has raised £50 for the hospital already. That is not childish." He sighed. He knew resistance was useless. Outside the windows, shapes moved. Villagers were already arriving. Children laughed. Their voices carried inside. Dolly clapped her hands. "Arthur, stand straighter. You are the host, not a ghost yourself." Colonel muttered something under his breath. In the drawing-room, Miss Marple sat with her knitting, quiet, observing. The needles clicked. Her eyes lifted when Dolly bustled past. She saw the quick glances between husband and wife. She saw Mary's nervous haste. She saw more than decorations. Dolly turned. "Jane, you will sit by the ticket table, only for a few minutes, just until I arrange the cider." Miss Marple smiled politely. "As you wish, Dolly." She rose. Her eyes lingered on the door. Guests stepped in. Dr. Fenton entered first, tall, spare. Silver hair bent low. He greeted Dolly, but his eyes searched for Sylvia March. Sylvia followed close behind, young, sharp-eyed, hands stained faintly with soil. She carried herself proudly but tightly, as if ready for challenge. Fenton spoke at once. "Mrs. Bantry, this orchid display. Sir Alistair is changing everything. It is reckless." Sylvia flushed. "He only wishes for order. The ghost orchid will shine at midnight. Timing matters." Fenton bristled. "Orchids are not circus tricks. They bloom in their own way." Dolly waved her hands. "Please, not now. Guests are at the door." Miss Marple's needles clicked once more. She heard the edge in Fenton's tone. She noticed Sylvia's jaw tighten. Tension, sharp as a wire, stretched between them. The door opened again. Mrs. Carter swept in, velvet gown, pearls heavy on her neck, her face flushed. "I object to the refreshment table. Drafts from the conservatory will ruin our health." Basil Green followed, carrying tools. His eyes slid toward Sylvia. Quick. Too quick. He mumbled about fairy lights and broken wires. Dolly tried to calm everyone. But Miss Marple saw how Fenton's eyes guarded Sylvia, saw how Green's eyes lingered on her, saw how Carter's eyes watched the conservatory. Too many eyes fixed on too few things. The noise grew. Complaints, instructions. Miss Marple folded her knitting. The true show had already begun. The air shifted. The door opened once more. Sir Alistair Wynne stepped inside. Small man, pink face, hair silver, leather case gripped tight in his hand. He did not greet Dolly. He did not greet the crowd. His eyes moved only once. Toward the glass doors at the far side. Toward the orchids waiting. His gaze fixed on the conservatory. The leather case pressed to his chest. The orchids stand tall. Their growers do not. Dr. Fenton's voice cut through the chatter. "These changes will ruin weeks of planning." Sylvia March kept her tone calm. "Sir Alistair believes adjustments are necessary. He wants proper order." Fenton's brows drew tight. "Order? Nonsense. This is not his collection. It is ours." Sylvia folded her arms. "The ghost orchid is the centerpiece. The display must be staged. Timing matters." Fenton shook his head. "You treat orchids like performers. They are living things, not actors in a play." Her lips pressed thin. "I have studied their cycles. They respond to preparation. He understands that." Fenton leaned closer. "He understands reputation. He will crush yours if he finds fault. And he will." Sylvia looked away, her hands clenched. She did not answer. Basil Green stepped forward, his hands stained from wires and soil. "Perhaps let her be, Doctor. She knows her work," Fenton snapped. "And you? What do you know of professional exhibition?" Green shifted uneasily. "I know she has skill. I know she works harder than anyone here." Fenton stared. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing more. Miss Marple watched quietly. Her needles moved. She noted how Sylvia's eyes flashed when challenged, how Fenton's voice sharpened with each reply, how Basil's gaze never left Sylvia. Mrs. Carter intruded then, always complaining. Her velvet rustled as she marched forward. "This arrangement is disgraceful. Drafts everywhere. The ladies will suffer chills. I will not sit in a breeze." Dolly Bantry tried to smile. "It is only for one night, Mrs. Carter." But Carter persisted. Lanterns too near the conservatory, wires across the path, tea placed in the wrong spot. Amateur work, all of it. Her voice carried. Several guests turned to stare. Dolly flushed. She whispered to Colonel Bantry. "Why do I always let her through the door?" Colonel muttered. "You cannot bar her. She would find a way in through the chimney." Miss Marple let the remark pass. Her mind was on the arguments. On the way Fenton's words bruised Sylvia. On the way Green hovered close, as if guarding her. On the way Carter's protests distracted from what truly mattered. The Orchid stood tall in the conservatory, but the growers clashed like enemies. Voices overlapped, accusations mixed with defenses. Every word added tension to the air. Then silence, sharp, sudden. Sir Alistair Wynne had stepped forward. His leather case rested at his feet, his small hands folded before him, his pink face grave. He spoke slowly. "Precision is everything. Without it, reputations fall." The words hung. No one answered. Miss Marple lowered her needles. Her eyes softened. She thought of ambition, of pride, of how easily both could break a life. Sir Alistair's warning lingered, cutting deeper than the arguments. A rare bloom, a rare chance. Sylvia stood near the conservatory door. Her voice was clear. "At midnight, the ghost orchid will open, a bloom few have ever witnessed." Gasps spread through the group. Even Dolly Bantry paused. "The ghost orchid? At midnight?" Sylvia nodded, her chin lifted with pride. "Yes, timed perfectly. A rare chance." Dr. Fenton scoffed. "Timed. Orchids do not obey clocks. They obey nature." Sylvia held firm. "Careful preparation creates conditions. The bloom will happen tonight." Fenton's face hardened. "You gamble with science. You gamble with truth." Sir Alistair adjusted his spectacles, his pink face unreadable. "A bold claim, Miss March. Boldness has its risks." Sylvia flushed, but she did not look away. "It will succeed. You will see." Basil Green stepped closer, quiet, protective. "She has worked for weeks. She knows what she is doing." Sir Alistair's gaze slid to Basil. "You defend her too quickly, Mr. Green. Orchids require evidence, not loyalty." Basil's jaw tightened. He said nothing. The tension grew sharp. Every glance cut deeper. Miss Marple kept her eyes lowered. Knitting needles moved, but her mind noted. Noted how Sylvia's hand trembled as she adjusted her apron. Noted the short florist's knife tucked in her pocket. Noted the coil of green wire, its edge glinting in the lamplight. She saw Basil's eyes drawn to Sylvia, protective, almost anxious. She saw Fenton's frown, stern and unyielding. She saw Alistair's calm face, masking judgment yet to come. Dolly clapped her hands. "Enough. This is a festive evening. Let us enjoy cider before the unveiling." But her words fell flat. The air held unease. Guests exchanged whispers. Some doubted Sylvia. Others admired her courage. Mrs. Carter sniffed loudly. "A midnight show. Ridiculous. People will catch chills waiting. No one answered her. Sylvia drew a deep breath. She looked at the crowd, her voice steady now. At midnight, I promise you beauty beyond compare. Miss Marple's needles clicked once. She thought of promises, how promises bind, but also break, how one broken promise could shatter a reputation, how envy often grows beside hope. The room grew quieter, eyes turned toward the glass. The conservatory loomed beyond, plants rested inside, silent and waiting. Sir Alistair stepped closer to the French doors, his face unreadable. His eyes fixed beyond the crowd. He did not look at Sylvia. He did not look at Fenton. He did not look at Basil. Through the glass, Sir Alistair kept staring at the ghost orchid display. A message slipped where it shouldn't be. The guests settled in the drawing room, laughter mixed with cider. Yet beneath it, tension stayed. Sir Alistair sat near the fire, his leather case beside him. He wrote notes in a small pad. His hand moved quick, sharp, exact. Miss Marple's eyes wandered. She did not knit. She watched, always watching. Something shifted. A folded paper slid from the arm of his chair. It fell lightly to the carpet. No one noticed, except her. She leaned forward, as if adjusting her bag. Her hand brushed the floor. The paper slipped quietly into her palm. She opened it under her knitting. Neat initials covered the page. Beside them, numbers in rows, precise, cold. GF4, SM try, BG2. Short codes, each marked against a name, each score like judgment. Her eyes narrowed. She understood. This was no casual note. This was evaluation, Sir Alistair's hidden code. She read again. GF Gabriel Fenton, 4, SM Sylvia March, 3, BG Basil Green, 2. Simple, but heavy. Numbers that weighed reputations, a secret tally of worth. She looked at Sylvia. The young woman's smile was strained. Her hands gripped her cider cup. A tremor showed. Did she know? Did she fear what tomorrow might bring? Fenton's gaze was steady, calm, but proud. Would he accept judgment or fight it? Basil Green avoided eyes. He fussed with wires at the side wall. But his glance darted once toward Sylvia, worried, protective, as if shielding her from a blow not yet struck. Miss Marple folded the note again. She slid it inside her bag, her face calm, her mind sharp. This was the rival motive, not orchids, not displays, but reputations. One harsh score could end a future. One number could humiliate in public. She knew envy lived here. She knew pride could break, and pride once broken could lead to darker acts. Sir Alistair rose. He snapped his case shut. Time to check the conservatory. His voice carried. No warmth, only duty. The crowd parted. He moved to the French doors. The key glinted in his hand. His step precise, his back straight. Miss Marple touched her bag. The note was safe inside. She said nothing. Not yet. She watched as Sir Alistair walked alone into the conservatory. The key turns. Silence answers. Sir Alistair crossed the hall, his case pressed to his side. The keyring jingled faintly in his hand. He opened the French doors. A chill draft slipped in. He stepped through without pause. The crowd leaned forward. Whispers followed. Children hushed. Eyes tracked him. He reached the conservatory. The lock clicked, metal against metal. A final turn. The door shut behind him. Inside light glowed warm. Plants shimmered in their ordered rows. The orchids stood waiting, silent witnesses. Sylvia clutched her own keys. She moved to the conservatory door, her face pale, her voice urgent. I should check. He may need help. She pulled the handle. It did not move. She rattled it harder. Still nothing. Her words cracked. It's locked from inside. Dr. Fenton pushed forward. Locked. He has the key. his voice edged with disbelief. Sylvia tried again. "Sir Alicester, are you ready?" Her call pressed against the glass. No answer. Mrs. Carter muttered behind her. "I warned you. The air inside is dangerous." The crowd thickened near the door, faces pressed to glass, breath fogged against panels. Colonel Bantry stepped in. "Stand back. Give space." Still eyes strained through glass. Inside, orchids gleamed under lantern light, their colors bright, their stems stiff. But no movement from Sir Alicester. Sylvia banged harder. Her hand trembled. "Sir Alicester, please." Dr. Haydock frowned. He bent close to the window. He cupped his hands against the glass. "Odd," he muttered. No sign of him at the door. Green arrived, wiping his hands. "Should I try the windows? Perhaps a latch?" Fenton cut him off. "Windows are latched from inside. I helped secure them. No use." The silence deepened. Only the faint hum of wires filled it. Miss Marple edged forward, her knitting bag still in hand. Her eyes studied every detail, the handle, the hinges, the faint mark of soot near the lock. Dolly clutched her husband's arm, her voice thin. "Arthur, I can see something. By the ghost orchid. Look there." The crowd pressed closer. Every face turned, every eye fixed. A shadow lay crumpled, near the veiled display, still, unmoving. Dr. Haydock's voice shook. "Good God, it's him." Gasps tore through the group. Children were pulled back. Murmurs rose. Colonel Bantry straightened. "Break the glass, now." Green pulled a hammer from his kit. He hesitated only once. Then the sharp crack echoed. Glass shattered. The crowd flinched. Shards fell. The night air rushed in. But no one spoke of orchids now. All eyes fixed on the figure inside. Through the glass, they saw Sir Alicester collapse near the ghost orchid. A body among orchids. Beauty hides poison. The broken window gaped open. Colonel Bantry brushed shards aside. "Careful. No one else near the glass." Dr. Haydock climbed through first. Quick. Steady. Years of emergencies in his stride. The crowd leaned forward. Faces pressed near the opening. Breath held. Inside, orchids lined the benches, but the focus was the figure on the floor. Sir Alicester Wynne, his arms stretched wide, a mask dangling loose around his neck. Dr. Haydock knelt. He pressed fingers to the pulse. He checked the chest. He waited, then shook his head. "He is gone." A gasp rippled through the crowd. Mrs. Carter clutched her pearls. "I said the air was dangerous. I warned you all." Sylvia's voice cracked. "Number, he cannot be. No." Her eyes filled. Her hands trembled. Fenton looked grim, his jaw clenched. Heart failure, perhaps. He was not young. But Miss Marple's eyes narrowed. She studied the mask. She studied the straps twisted wrong. She studied the valve turned oddly. She did not speak yet. She noted instead the faint smell. Sweet. Sharp. Not orchid, not soil. Something chemical. Something wrong. Green stepped forward. "Should I bring water?" Colonel Bantry raised a hand. "Number, stay back. Let the doctor work." Dr. Haydock stood, his face set. "Nothing more I can do. He is dead." Silence followed. The conservatory lights hummed. The orchids gleamed as if untouched. Life among death. Sylvia swayed. Fenton steadied her arm. Green moved too, but stopped. He bit his lip. Mrs. Carter's voice broke the quiet. "It was the shock, the sudden cold, his poor heart." But Marple shook her head slightly. She stepped closer to the broken window. The warmth inside touched her face. Not cold. Too warm. Her eyes dropped to the floor. Near the threshold, a small brazier sat. Cold now. Out of place, as if placed for purpose. Her mind turned over the details. The mask, the smell, the brazier, the warmth sealed inside. The crowd whispered. Terrible. On such a night. Poor man. Colonel Bantry herded them back. Everyone inside. Inspector Slack will be called. Slowly they drifted, some weeping, some muttering. Sylvia pale as paper, Green restless, Fenton stern. Marple lingered, her gaze on the orchids, perfect, still. Yet beside them lay a man undone. She felt the weight of envy, the weight of ambition, the weight of secrets that kill. She whispered, barely above breath. This was no accident. Her words slipped into the air, quiet but final. Order enters, but truth slips away. The conservatory door stood open now, the body covered. Guests hushed. Footsteps sounded in the hall, firm, heavy. Inspector Slack entered. He looked around sharply, his notebook already in hand. None of you leave. I will have statements. Dolly Bantry exhaled. At least someone in charge. Colonel Bantry muttered. He will stir the pot before tasting it. Slack ignored him. His eyes went straight to Sylvia March. You were nearest when he fell. Explain yourself. Sylvia swallowed. I only announced the midnight bloom. I promised them the ghost orchid would open. That is all. Slack frowned. A performance, then. You put pressure on him. Her hands tightened. Number it was my plan. He did not object. He wished order. Fenton stepped forward, his tone cold. Order? He told me himself. It was nonsense. Theatrical nonsense. She was staging orchids as if they were fireworks. Sylvia spun toward him. That is not true. He respected my work. Fenton's voice sharpened. He mocked it. He said science must not be bent for applause. Green shifted uneasily. He raised his voice at last. She is not to blame. She worked harder than all of us. Sir Leicester knew it. Slack wrote quickly. His pen scratched hard. Everyone says something different, yet the man is dead, and the mask. He held it up. The straps twisted, the valve reversed. Who touched this? Silence. Eyes darted. No one answered. Slack turned to Dolly. Who broke the window? Mr. Green, Dolly replied, but only when we saw Sir Leicester collapse. Slack scribbled again. His gaze narrowed on Green. You tampered. You broke entry. Green flushed. I broke it to save him. Ask the doctor. Haydock nodded. He is right. He only acted on my order. Slack's eyes stayed cold. We shall see. Miss Marple stood still, her knitting bag tucked close, her eyes lowered but her thoughts moving fast. She noticed the mask again. Slack's rough fingers left smudges on its edge. She moved nearer. May I? She asked softly. Slack handed it over with a grunt. Just don't spoil evidence. Marple bent her head. She sniffed lightly. No bitterness, no acid trace. Only a faint soft scent, powdery, familiar. Her eyes narrowed. Talc, not chemical, not protection, a disguise. The voices behind her carried on. Accusations, defenses, anger rising. She heard them but did not join. Her mind stayed fixed on the mask. On the sweet powder clinging where poison should have lingered, she thought of vanity, of pride that hides behind masks, of ambition coated thin like powder over danger. Her lips parted. The words almost slipped out. Marple whispered, the mask smells of talc, not chemicals. A mask protects or betrays. The conservatory stayed sealed from the crowd. Inspector Slack stood near the body. His boots crunched against shards. He raised the mask again. Its straps twisted, the valve fixed wrong. Marple watched quietly. She stepped closer, her voice low. The valve points inward, not outward. Slack looked up. What of it? Her eyes stayed on the mask. No air could pass, no protection at all. Slack frowned. So he wore it wrong? She shook her head. Not wrong, reversed, done with purpose. Slack scribbled notes. Could be his own error. Dr. Haydock stepped in. Alastair was a careful man. He would not mistake something so basic. Slack's jaw tightened. His eyes searched the benches, cords, pots, tools scattered. Something else caught his eye, a small metal tin, half-burned wick inside. He picked it up, the smell faint but sharp. Fumigation candle, Slack muttered. Half used, burned tonight. Fenton stiffened. That is not mine. I use no such trickery. Sylvia's hands twisted, her voice strained. It was not part of my display. Green spoke quick. Someone placed it, after the doors were locked. Slack stared at him, or before, by someone with access. Marple bent near the tin. Her eyes studied the ash rim. She noted the soot stain on the glass above. She noted the ribbon tied oddly near the vent. Her thoughts turned. The mask reversed, the candle lit. The room sealed, each detail a step in a plan. Mrs. Carter's voice rose again. It proves my point. The air inside was foul. That is why he died. Fenton snapped. He did not die of drafts. He died of tampering. Someone staged this. Slack growled. Enough. I'll hear no theories, only facts. But Marple's eyes stayed sharp. She held the mask again. She traced the valve with one finger. The powdery scent of talc still clung. Her voice softened. This mask was chosen, not for safety, for deception. Sylvia looked down, her breath uneven. Fenton glared at her. Green shifted uneasily. The room thickened with silence. Every guest felt the weight of suspicion. Every glance sought guilt in another face. Marple folded her hands. She thought of truth. How it hides in plain sight. How it waits for the right eye to see. Slack barked an order. No one leaves. I will search every inch of this place. The crowd murmured. Anxiety grew. Tension deepened. Miss Marple raised her head, her tone firm, her words deliberate. This was carefully staged, Marple said. Snowfalls. Clues remain. Morning came heavy at Gossington Hall. The conservatory stayed sealed with cord. Inspector Slack returned with men from the station. Colonel Bantry guided them round the side path. Snow lay thin on the ground, but something dark marked it. Slack bent down, black specks scattered by the threshold. He rubbed one between his fingers. Soot. Fresh, he muttered, from last night. Dr. Haydock joined him. It drifted out from the vent. The candle burned long enough to leave residue. Green shifted uncomfortably, his hands deep in his pockets. I saw smuts, he admitted. Falling near the light wires, I thought it was ash from lanterns. Slack's eyes snapped up. You saw this, and said nothing? Green flushed. I thought it harmless. I had work with the fairy lights. I did not connect it. Sylvia spoke suddenly, her tone sharp. Don't press him. He worked outside. He had no reason to guess. Slack scrawled in his notebook. Convenient. Always a reason, always a defense. He turned his head. Look higher. The men followed his gaze. Near the roof vent, a ribbon fluttered, red against white frost, tied to the slat. Bantry frowned. Odd place for a ribbon. Haydock climbed a step-ladder. He tugged gently. The knot held fast. He passed it down. Slack examined it. The strands twisted neat, the knot strange. Marple leaned closer. Her eyes studied the weave, her voice quiet. This is not common tying. It is a slip knot, florist's work. Slack raised a brow. You sound certain. She nodded. I have seen such knots before, used for securing stems. Easy to pull tight, easy to undo. But this one? Left-handed. The group stilled, each mind turning. Left-handed narrowed the circle. Sylvia's face drained of color. Her hands pressed flat to her sides. Fenton glanced at her quickly. Green's jaw set tight. Mrs. Carter spoke harshly. So we know the sort of person, a florist, a grower, someone trained with plants. Her eyes slid toward Sylvia, her meaning clear. Slack pocketed the ribbon, his voice low. This narrows it indeed. Marple kept silent. But her mind ticked on. The soot, the ribbon, the knot, pieces of one puzzle. She thought of skill, of hands that practiced daily, of envy tied as firmly as ribbon round a stem. The air bit cold, but the suspicion was colder. Marple whispered, this knot was done left-handed, a florist's slip knot. One death is not enough for someone. The hall filled again that evening. Lanterns lit, fairy lights strung across the walls, guests gathered uneasy, whispers low. Inspector Slack stayed close to the conservatory. His men searched corners. No one moved without his eye. Then sudden, a crack. The lights flickered, once, twice, then dimmed to half. Voices rose, children shrieked, women gasped. The glow faltered around them. Colonel Bantry rushed to the switchboard. He banged it with his hand. Nothing. Green darted forward. I'll check the generator. It must be strain. Slack barked. No one moves alone. You stay where I can see you. But the noise grew louder. From the far side, faint sparks hissed. Wires snapped against the wall. Smoke curled in threads. Fire! Someone shouted. The crowd pressed back. Dolly raised her arms. Stay calm! Stay calm! Slack shoved through. His men doused the sparks with wet cloth. The smoke thinned. The panic eased. But the lights stayed dark. The generator dead. Slack bent near the wires. His torch glared across them. The copper strands torn. Edges cut. Not snapped. Not worn. He looked hard. This isn't failure. This is tampering. The words struck heavy, deliberate. Again. Fenton crossed his arms. Sabotage, just like I said. Someone is driving fear into us. Mrs. Carter shrilled. It could spread fire. We could have all perished. Sylvia's voice shook. Why would anyone do this? Haven't we suffered enough? Slack turned slow. His eyes narrowed. Basil Green still held his tool belt. Wire cutter slipped half out of a pouch. Slack's voice cut sharp. You had means. You had chance. Green stiffened. I only brought cutters for lantern wire, nothing more. Slack stepped closer. Convenient. Right tool, right moment. Too convenient. Green's face flushed red. I swear I did not touch those wires. Sylvia moved fast. Her hand gripped his arm. He would not. He is not that man. Slack barked at her. Defend him if you wish, but I see facts, tools, knowledge, presence, all point one way. The guests murmured. Whispers spread quick. Eyes slid toward Green. Suspicion thickened. Miss Marple stood apart, her gaze on the cut edges. She studied the angle, neat, exact, but too clean, too obvious. Her thoughts turned. One death already. Now fear sown again, a pattern of staging. But staging for what end? She touched her knitting bag. She kept silent, for now. The weight of accusation hung heavy. Green's head lowered. Slack's pen scratched quick in his book. Slack pointed at him. Basil Green, you sabotaged this. Don't deny it. All clues point to him, too easily. The hall stayed restless. Eyes shifted toward Basil Green. Inspector Slack's voice cut through. Every sign leads to him. He held up the ribbon from the vent. Soil marks, knotwork, florist's slip, Green fits. He lifted the broken wire. Cut clean, cutter from his own belt. He pointed at the soot near the conservatory. Green admitted he saw smuts, yet he kept silent. The villagers whispered, each murmur heavier than the last. He was always near the plants. He meddled with wires. He broke the glass. Green's face reddened. His fists clenched. I tried to help, that is all. Slack pressed harder. You had motive. You work beneath Sir Alistair's judgment. A bad score, and you lose reputation. Green's voice cracked. I had no fear of judgment. I only cared that Miss March succeed. Sylvia pushed forward, her voice sharp. He is innocent. He only defended me. Why do you twist it? Slack glared at her. Loyalty does not erase facts. Fenton folded his arms. He nodded once. The evidence is plain. He had means. He had chance. He had reason. Green turned to him. Reason? You hated Sir Alistair more than I did. Fenton's eyes hardened. I opposed his methods. But murder? That is not mine to carry. The room thickened with tension. Every glance slid toward Green. Every whisper sharpened against him. Mrs. Carter sniffed loudly. I always said workmen should not be trusted. Too much access, too little breeding. Dolly winced at her words. But the whisperers agreed too easily. One scapegoat for all. Miss Marple stood near the back. Her eyes did not leave the wire edges. Her mind turned over the soot. Her fingers brushed her knitting bag. She studied the pattern. Too clean, too aligned. Each clue fell perfectly on one man. Her heart weighed heavy. A man's name, ruined in moments. A life bent beneath suspicion, and still. Truth out of reach. Sylvia's cry broke the silence. He is not guilty. You blind yourselves. You want simple answers. Her hand gripped Basil's sleeve tight, her face pale but fierce. Green lowered his head. His shoulders shook. He muttered, They will not believe me, no matter what I say. Slack moved closer. You will answer more at the station. The law will decide. The villagers nodded, some relieved, some eager. The weight of guilt pressed onto one man, but Marple's eyes stayed sharp. Her voice cut through the murmurs, quiet, firm, unshaken. No, it's too neat. Someone wants him blamed. Names tell stories. Wrong names tell lies. Inspector Slack marched into the conservatory. His torch. Beam cut across the benches. He pointed at the rows of orchids. Every pot will be checked. Green followed in silence. Fenton crossed his arms. Sylvia lingered by the door. Her hands shook. Slack picked up the first label. Ink neat, name steady. He moved to the second, still clean. Then the third. He frowned. Look here, ink rubbed, word overwritten. He scraped the surface with his nail. Beneath Ghost Orchid, faint strokes bled through. Another name, erased. Fenton stepped closer, his face grim. So she tricked us, a fake Ghost Orchid. Sylvia gasped. No, but that is not mine. Someone switched it. Slack raised the label higher. The ink is fresh. Someone wrote this yesterday. Marple bent near the bench. Her eyes studied the strokes. The letters trembled, the lines uneven, a hand uncertain. Not a master's script. She glanced at Sylvia. The girl pressed her lips tight. Her hands clenched her skirt. Her breath quickened. Marple spoke softly. This ink blots as from a fountain pen. You carry one, do you not, Miss March? Sylvia's face reddened. She pulled back. I do. But many here use pens. Slack pressed harder. You wrote this. Admit it. Sylvia shook her head. Number I did not. It is not my hand. Green stepped forward. She could not. She was with me last evening. Fenton's voice cut him down. Your word is not proof. The tension deepened. Voices overlapped. Accusations sharpened. Marple stayed calm. She held the label under the light. She studied the faint strokes beneath. She murmured. The erased name does not match the plant itself. The deception is deliberate. Someone wanted this orchid to appear rarer than it is. Her thoughts weighed heavy. Reputation at stake. One false label enough to topple pride, and pride sharp enough to kill. Sylvia trembled, her denial weak now. Her eyes avoided every gaze. Her fingers clutched her pen inside her pocket. Slack's men searched further. Papers lay scattered near Sir Alistair's case. Slack bent and pulled one sheet free. He read aloud. March, clever staging. The words struck. The crowd stirred. Some gasped. Some nodded grimly. Sylvia shook her head fast. Number that does not mean guilt. It was his note, not mine. But Slack's face hardened. To him, your trick was clear, and he judged it false. Marple touched the label once more. Her eyes softened. She thought of youth striving for honor, of ambition that bends truth, of how one small lie could grow into ruin. Slack held up the page. Alcester himself wrote it. March, clever staging. Alive at 11, or so it seemed. The villagers crowded in the hall. Whispers still circled. Eyes turned to Dr. Haydock. He raised his hand for silence. I examined the body again this morning. Sir Alcester was gone before 11. Gasps spread. Sylvia's face drained of color. Fenton's arms crossed tighter. Green looked stunned. Dolly clutched her shawl. But we saw him. We all saw him moving in the glass. Haydock shook his head. Number, you saw a shadow. The body was already still. The illusion fooled you. Colonel Bantry frowned. A trick of light, then, from the lanterns? Haydock sighed. Not accident, a deliberate signal. Someone arranged it. Slack snapped his notebook shut. So the crowd was deceived. Someone wanted the world to think he lived past that hour. The villagers buzzed louder. Mrs. Carter pointed toward Sylvia. She planned her midnight bloom, a show, a spectacle. Why not another? Sylvia's voice trembled. Number, I swear. I did not. Fenton's voice cut sharp. She promised timing. She promised midnight. A trick would serve her well. Sylvia shook her head. I wanted success, not death. Green stepped closer. She could not. She was with me when the lanterns shifted. Slack ignored them both. He barked to his men. Check the lamps. Check for screens. Check for any device. They searched the conservatory walls. One officer lifted a small board, a black cloth tied with string. Slack held it high. Here, hung against the glass, with a lantern behind, it would cast a shadow. Haydock nodded. Exactly. A false outline, a trick of the eye. The villagers murmured again. She made us believe. She led us wrong. Sylvia's eyes filled with tears. I knew nothing of this. Please believe me. Marple stood quiet near the back, her hands folded, her eyes steady. She studied the cloth. She studied Sylvia's shaking hands. She studied the calm faces of those who did not tremble. Her thoughts turned, a trick staged, a signal planted, not for bloom, but for alibi. The weight of it pressed her heart. How lies could spread so easily, how trust in sight could betray so deeply, how ambition twisted truth into false glow. She lifted her head, her voice low but cutting through the room. The real bloom, Marple said, was murder itself. Knots, ink, and talc. Inspector Slack spread items across the table. The mask, the ribbon knot, the smeared label. He called Sylvia forward. Hands out. She hesitated. Green whispered, Don't. But Slack's voice snapped. Now. Slowly Sylvia raised her hands. Her fingers shook. On the tips, faint stains of ink. Slack lifted the mask. The strap edge bore a dark smear. The same ink. He held it up high. Matches. Same hand. Same touch. Sylvia shook her head fast. Number, I only handled papers, not the mask. Fenton's eyes narrowed. Always excuses, never answers. Slack placed the ribbon next. The knot, left-handed. He glanced around. Who here is left-handed? Silence. Then Green muttered, Miss March is. All eyes turned. Sylvia's shoulders sagged. Her lips pressed thin. Yes, I am. But that proves nothing. Slack barked. It proves access, it proves skill, and it proves opportunity. He tapped the mask again. You arranged this. You handled it. You fixed the valve wrong. Sylvia backed away. Her breath quickened. Her voice rose. Number, I swear. I never touched it. Fenton's tone bit sharp. Your bloom was never real. You staged everything. First a fake orchid, now a fake midnight signal. She turned on him. Tears welled in her eyes. "You wanted me ruined. You wanted me crushed." He answered coldly. "I wanted honesty. That is all." Green stepped in. "Enough. You are twisting it all against her. She is guilty of nothing but pride." Slack's pen scratched. He looked unmoved. He set each piece together. Ink, knot, mask. The villagers whispered again. She lied. She made the knot. She tampered with the mask. Dolly Bantry wrung her hands. "It is dreadful, so dreadful." Miss Marple stood silent, her eyes not on Sylvia. Her gaze lingered on the talc powder brushed into the strap. Her mind turned it over. The smell of powder, not poison, a cover, a disguise. She thought of ambition, a young woman striving to be seen, the hunger to shine, the danger when pride turns to desperation. Her heart softened, but her reason stayed firm. The details formed a chain, each link leading to Sylvia. The crowd leaned closer. The air grew heavy. Every breath waited for Slack's word. He stepped forward. His boots struck the floor loud. His hand pointed sharp. "Miss March," Slack said, "explain this." The Orchid was never the prize. Reputation was. The room fell into silence. All eyes moved to Miss Marple. She stood calm, knitting bag still in hand. Her voice was gentle, but it carried. This was no accident, nor was it chance. It was staged, step by step. Inspector Slack frowned. "Explain yourself." She nodded. "I will." She lifted the mask first. The valve reversed, not a mistake. Someone set it so the air inside was trapped. He wore it believing it safe, but it was death. Her fingers brushed the faint stain. And the ink mark shows who handled it. Sylvia flinched. Her eyes dropped to the floor. Marple placed the mask down. She lifted the fumigation tin. This burned inside the locked room, a sweet chemical, not enough to scorch the air, but enough to weaken a man who breathed without filter. The mask should have saved him, but it betrayed him. Slack nodded once. "Go on." Marple touched the ribbon. "The knot, left-handed, not chance. Miss March, you tied it yourself. You meant it to vent smoke, to guide the fumes, and to leave a mark of control." Sylvia trembled. Her hands clutched each other tight. Marple did not pause. "The shadow at midnight. Not Sir Alistair alive, but a trick. A board against the glass, a lantern behind. So the villagers saw what they thought they saw. A man moving, but he was already gone." Gasps circled the hall. The villagers turned wide-eyed. Fenton's mouth tightened. "I told you, theater, not science." Marple lifted the coded note. This list, Alistair's private scores. He meant to announce judgment. Miss March feared the result. She feared humiliation. A career ruined before it began, so she chose to silence him. Sylvia shook her head weakly. Her lips formed words, but no sound came. Marple's tone softened. "You planned the parts well. The candle, the mask, the knot. You even framed Mr. Green by leaving clues pointing his way. Soot, wire, cutter, too neat, too clean." Green's eyes widened. He muttered, "So it was never me." Sylvia's shoulders sagged. Her body swayed. Her voice finally broke. "He was going to destroy me." The words burst raw. "He mocked my work. He promised to shame me before them all. He would have ended everything I had built." Tears streaked her face. She clutched her hands to her chest. "I only wanted respect, just once, to be seen, to be more than a girl with dirt on her hands." The villagers shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away. Some stared at her with pity. Marple lowered her eyes. Her voice carried quiet sorrow. "Reputation is a fragile thing, but it cannot be guarded by lies, and it cannot be saved by murder." The hall sank into silence. Sylvia's sobs filled it. She cried out, "He was going to destroy me." Flowers fade, pride poisons. The conservatory stood quiet. Police sealed it off. The orchids glowed behind the glass. But no one admired them now. Villagers gathered in the hall, voices hushed, eyes down, the excitement of Halloween gone. Dolly Bantry shook her head. She pressed her hand to her chest. The most dreadful Halloween I have ever hosted. Colonel Bantry muttered, "At least the truth is out." But the cost. He did not finish. Mrs. Carter fussed with her pearls. Disgraceful, a young woman, so clever, so promising, to throw it all away. Fenton said nothing, his face stern, his pride untouched, yet shadowed by shame. Green sat apart, his hands still trembling, whispers still hung over him, though cleared. He stared at the floor, silent. Sylvia had been led away. Her sobs still echoed faintly in memory. A girl undone by fear of failure, a life bent beneath judgment. Inspector Slack closed his notebook, his voice flat. "Work is done here. Statements taken. The courts will handle the rest." He left briskly. No comfort, no softness. The villagers drifted slowly, each step heavy, each glance at the orchids bitter. Beauty felt spoiled. The ghost orchid meant nothing now. Dolly turned to Miss Marple, her voice low. "Jane, I cannot forget it. Orchids and lanterns and laughter, and a man dead on my floor." Marple laid her knitting in her lap, her eyes soft but steady. "Yes, Dolly, it will not be forgotten, not by you, not by anyone here." Dolly sighed. Why must pride twist? So far, she was gifted. She could have shone without this. Marple nodded. Pride blinds, ambition consumes, and envy poisons all it touches. She looked toward the conservatory once more. Orchids still bloomed, untouched by human grief, silent, indifferent. Her thoughts lingered. How fragile life was. How a single judgment could push one soul to desperation. How truth hides beneath layers of pride. She reflected on the coded note, on the knots, on the talc powder, small details, all leading to truth. And truth, though painful, was necessary. The room felt heavy with lesson. No one spoke loudly. No laughter returned. Only the weight of what envy had wrought. Marple's hands folded gently. Her eyes softened. She thought of Sylvia's cry. "He was going to destroy me." A cry of fear, not of strength. A cry that ended in ruin. Dolly whispered once more. "The most dreadful Halloween." Marple answered softly. "Yes, Dolly, dreadful indeed. For flowers fade. But pride poisons." The hall grew still. The last of the villagers slipped away. Only silence remained. Marple's gaze stayed on the orchids, beautiful, yet shadowed, life and death twined together. Among orchids, one truth always blooms: envy kills.